session so that we can start. So in the current session, I'm going to project some kind of the aspects related to Hive. Of course, we have seen some of the aspects in Hive. In today's session, we'll go further. The current session objectives. Uh, Loading the data from one table to another table. Second thing is working with built-in functions. And thereafter, we'll see the usage of bucketing. And most importantly, static and dynamic partition. And discussion on concept of indexing. So, of course, these things really helps us how we are making the existing table information to load into the new table, and working with built-in functions. Some of the functions, join options, okay, those customizations we'll see, and concept of the bucketing. So, suppose I'm having some bulk data, and how do I access, how do I process my data with the uses of bucketing. And next important thing is, of course, we have seen some partition technique while creating the table. But later, how I can empower the appropriate tables in terms of static and dynamic partition. And thereafter, we are having the concept of the indexing. Let me recap for all the things we have seen from the earlier session. We started with I'm providing you the rearrangement. We have seen some Hive architecture. Of course, with this we observed command line interface and graphical user interface, and we are adding some trick server, and then of course cluster. With Hadoop cluster only the appropriate job submissions happen, and few aspects we have seen like JDBC, ODBC kind of aspects where the script server helps so as to support the embedded IOQL kind of things. And thereafter, so just we start our discussion with Hive table creation. And after creation of the table, just we have loaded our data. Load data from local file system with the help of local in path. And we have seen how we are loading the data from Hadoop distributed file system in path. There is no term called local. Okay, load data in path, load data local in path. And thereafter, describe or view the data as usual, how we are performing. And thereafter, we observed that working of external table and creation of the external table, and at the same time store the data into Hadoop distributed file system. Okay, so and even after dropping of this external table, okay, still we can get the data into the Hadoop distributed file system. So these things we have seen, and there is a a discussion on graphical user interface, where it is providing the query in terms of Hive. So just this particular interface is also providing the job information, or else with the help of the ARM. Okay, both the resource manager and as well as the history or job history server. In both the cases, you can achieve, you can expect the functionality of Hive. These things we have seen. Okay, and thereafter, our friends has given the usage of MapReduce and Hadoop distributed file system. Okay, these they studied extensively, and we have seen those kind of aspects. So this is a brief description about the earlier thing. Now we are currently making use of this loading of the data from one table to another table. Such kind of examples were there. Let me pick that examples for you. Okay, because most of the entries today are working with the Hive interface. Okay, so just let me start with that. Um, Case. So we'll start with that interface because these things, ETL process fundamentally in the description of that Hive also we did observe the processing of the ETL, and you can slowly realize that how we are making use of those kind of the conventions in the loading and processing of the data. Okay, first already we are having this thing. Let us connect. Here, I'll show you friends in both command line interface and as well as the graphical user interface. In both the ways, we'll see some of the aspects where if I want to get some immediate response, okay, I can make use of with command line interface. Whereas if you want to see some graphical kind of the representation, or you don't want to type any just copy paste kind of aspects, you can make use of your GUI kind of things also. Okay, so here just I'm having this database for us. Within that database, so far we have created page view and as well as the page view XML. So the page view table contains all the information about the page statistics, and we have created two partitions here. One is India and second is the US. And there, what we have observed is just we have taken the usage of local and as well as the distributed file system. And in both the ways, just we try to load the data that we have seen. Apart from that, the party we have observed based on the date and as well as the country information. And coming to the page view XML, we have created the table, XML table, with the usage of that command. And that XML table helps us. So you can explicitly mention some kind of the location. You may be having some doubt, can I store the table data in local file system? However, I'm going to specify that part also, guys. Okay, at times, if there is a possibility of getting the access on, of course, you are having the access on local file system and Hadoop distributed file system, then you generally prefer, okay, whatever the way you want, maybe LFS or HDFS. There is no restriction. But only the thing is, HDFS is comparatively faster when if you compare with the local file system. Look at that point we observed actually. So and it is a pretty straightforward thing because any tool, maybe that is the Scoop, Hive, MapReduce, and whichever the tools we are using, all these tools are fundamentally running on top of the HDFS, and they are directly or indirectly using the programming methodology of the MapReduce. Okay, so with that, just you can easily, without any debate, you can say that MapReduce is the faster processing compared with Hive, Scoop, or any other tool. And Hadoop distributed file system is the default storage for all the ecosystem tools, no matter whether I'm using the Pig Latin, Hive, or MapReduce, or else Scoop. For all these kind of the things, basically, uh, this Hadoop distributed file system is a fundamental aspect. Now, just I'm having these kind of the conventions earlier. Now let us log into this cluster. So this cluster is a distributed one, which is providing all the required entries for us, and we are start using this kind of things. Uh, Let me interact with this thing, guys, and so just try to install this Hadoop and all the other things. Definitely, it is going to help you guys. Though many projects were not there in Hadoop, but Hive we are using, Scoop we are using, because Hive is an excellent tool, friends. Okay. So at least just to try to get some kind of the virtual machine, and uh, in many companies, you may be getting the free, I mean, predefined cluster in terms of Cloudera and all these things. Otherwise, I'll be sharing because I'm waiting for you guys to confirm whether you have some of the people contacted me in the installation. I have guided them. So, but likewise, okay, just if you are trying to install, better to do that. Otherwise, just I will be sharing some virtual machine with you. Is a pre-configured. Okay, I have shown you some kind of virtual machine I'm using. The same virtual machine I'll be sharing with you so that you can directly install and make use of that Cloudera one. Either one is good only. And in the today's session, just a few for the few examples, we'll be using input Hive. Okay, so however, we are having this information with us: employee lead, employee SE, employee SSE. Like that, I'm having some kind of the data, transaction data, user.txt are also there. So this is one side, and I need one more connect. Okay, so this particular connect is for the sake of Hive interaction. Um, Let me see how many web shells I can make use. So to launch the Hive, just you can make use of the command Hive. So the pre-configured in the pre-configured Hadoop distributed file system, just by giving this Hive command, it leads to the appropriate command prompt. And Control L to clear the screen, whereas in this thing we are having clear. There is a distinction. This is a typical Linux environment. Whereas if you see this another web shell, I'm using the Hive. So with the prompt itself, you can recognize that. Now what should I do? Just I need to use the our our database. I have to mention because many databases were there, but we are very particular about our database. And let us see how many tables were there. So show tables. Only two tables were there related to our implementation. Okay. Now, just we have inserted some kind of page data, and there we're having the page view external kind of thing also. Um, and with respect to this particular data, what I want to do is, if you go little back, just we have used partitioned and as well as the clustered by and those kind of the things. And however, I'll be explaining those things with the example. Um, so if I want to get the table data, so just I want to get, let me see how many records were there. Page view, external. Okay, no data is there. So we need to insert the data, no problem. And let me see which are all the data items available in page view because we have inserted. Yeah, this table is populated with the data. So my intention is now I should take the table data and I want to insert that. So for that, guys, just we are having this option. Let me show you that how I can make use of the existing table information. Okay, so as to provide the data and maybe you login portal. Okay, just let me use this interface also for a few performances. So now just have a look on this guys. Just I am using the insert override table, page view external. Send it out.
ನೀನ ಸತೀಶ
Bala, Bala, are you having any doubt or you can mute? Friends, you just to be cautious. Okay. Yeah. So just if you are referencing insertion of the data, just you can make use of insert override table data. Here we pretty know what exactly override from the SQL perspective also. Maybe while creating some views, create or replace kind of thing we'll be using. In the insertion also, override table. Already, if the data is existing and I want to override that particular existing data. And of course, I'm still, I can make use of the partition because in the current page views kind of the data, just we are using the date and as well as the country information. And then what we are doing is select. If you clearly observe whatever the data I'm having, just I'm getting the view time, user ID, page URL, IP address. Okay, where date and as well as the country information. So a typical statement, friends, just if you are referencing how it is picking up is in the normal insertion process, the distinction we need to observe. In the normal insertion process, all the appropriate attribute information we are specifying in our SQL. Whereas if I am making use of this Hive, a date and the country I am just using as a kind of partition satisfaction. So because this particular partition itself is embedded in the insertion option. Okay, I mean to say because date and country we are not explicitly mentioning the selection process. But as a part of the partition, we are maintaining the date and country provided in the page view table. Okay, in the page view table, we are having many data items. If you observe this thing in the page view, so just I am having all these kind of the data. Okay, from India and as well as all these things. And US data is not there. So definitely we have to insert that thing also. But however, just what I am doing here is let me change this US to IN. Okay, otherwise what happens is empty data will be inserted. Just I am taking like this. And country is IN. Okay, now just what I am doing here is just I am running the query so as to insert my data into the external table. So page view already there. And with the help of that particular page view, I want to push the data into external. So this is running map reduce. You can see here the convention and all how it is doing. It is establishing some map and reduce aspects. And parallelly, you can verify the same with the ARN also. Yesterday we have seen, just you can go to the Cloud Era Manager, and within that, if you select that ARN, obviously it gives the currently running job information. Okay, or else if already job has been completed, and in that case, just you can go and verify the history, job history server. In either way, while running the job, you can go to the resource manager. If the job is completed and you want to verify the appropriate status of the job, you can go to the job history server. Now it is not going to return any outcome. Just it is the process of the insertion. Just it is giving the information. Okay. Uh, now after completion of this thing, if I want to run the earlier command, so just I want to run select star from page view external. So one minute, I just can remove this thing, page view external. So page view external. Now our expectation is the data must be populated. Okay, whatever the specification we have given, obviously this data is going to get okay multiple times the page view, which is having some information, India-based page statistics. And if you want to insert US, of course, the same procedure. So getting the data from appropriate storage, and you can perform the activity. So this is how you can make use of the concept of external table and how we are making use of the convention like accessing and processing of the data. Now, if you drop the table also in the earlier session, just we tried to drop the table, and even after dropping also, we have seen some kind of the functionalities where that even after dropping also, you can easily observe what exactly the directory contains, and we can make use of that convention in the processing of the data further. Okay, so this is one dimension, and thereafter, suppose if I want to verify how many functionalities are there. So because in the no matter whether I'm using the SQL or HiveQL or Scoop, there are always possibility of getting the existing or predefined or built-in functions. Many functions were there. So many functions were there, and now I want to use some of the functionalities so as to implement my tasks. So for that purpose, just I am making use of some kind of the transactional data. Um, this particular transactional data is containing some information fields. Let me show you that. So just I am making use of the transactional data. So going to this Hive portal and running this new query, okay, rather than getting the things. Okay, here it is better to handle this kind of convention. But one thing is there is just if you are making use of any memory or any path oriented things, the GUI may not support. This Hue login portal is not supporting that kind of convention. In that case, we have to make use of the command prompt. There is no other possibility. Now see here, transaction records table I am creating. Assume that here we are picking up some kind of the content from a hypermarket or from a e-commerce kind of the website. So there I'm having the transaction number, date of the transaction, customer number, amount, category of the customer and product purchased, city, state, and spend by. How he is spending the appropriate things, and row format delimited, terminated by comma, stored as text file. So just I want to create the transaction records table. Okay. So this particular transaction records table, which is helping us so as to perform some kind of, so if I want to apply some functionalities, so that I'm creating the transaction table. So immediately guys, just if you observe, it is refreshing and automatically it is updating the table information. Earlier we are having only page view and as well as the page view external. Now this transaction records with the specified column information, transaction number, transaction date, customer number, amount, category, product, city, state, and spend by. Like that, I'm having certain columns information. Now my aim is just I want to show you the transaction data which are all existing. Okay, so that particular transaction data I'm fetching from the local file system. Okay, so just have a look on this, guys. Just we are having the information. Okay, so I'm making use of the new query and I want to get this information. But let me show you how this particular GUI is not allowing us to run the query. So though it is very clear that if you go to this path and if you specify input hyphen hide, I'm having the transaction data. Now if you see this editor, from this input hive, I'm getting the transaction information. Okay, I'm pretty clear that this transaction data is available in the local file system. Now, at the moment you give the run option, guys, just to see, because path-based things generally Hadoop admin won't give to us. Okay, if it is a selection process or if it is accessing the data sheet, no files matching path. So just it is giving some kind of the reference for us. Okay, so just we are going back and we try to uh, execute the same kind of the uh, code here. Load data, local in path, input Hive transactions. Okay, now input Hive transactions. TXNS is there now. Load data, local in path, input Hive. Okay, just it is hyphen, not underscore. Override into table transaction records. Just you enter this guys. So immediately it took very less amount of the time. Now what I am doing here is, though it is not allowing me to create, okay, but I can perform all the other activities. It's not. It's just only. It is not allowing me to work with this kind of thing, but it is allowing me. Just you can make use of select star from. Uh, just always prefer the identification of the database name and as well as transaction records. But because parallelly many tables or many data things were available, no? So that it is always preferable to mention the prefix as the corresponding database name. Now you observe here, guys. It won't object us. Okay, just I am fetching the entire information and many records were there. Okay, only it is showing 100 results. Okay, so just it is providing all the data items, transaction number, date, like that. I'm having some kind of the information. Now, let me apply some sort of querying on this. As our thought process is just we want to perform some kind of statistical functionalities. So we'll make use of those kind of the conventions. Again, just open the new editor. See here, count star. Generally, this count aggregate function, we are knowing about the usage of the count. Now, let us see how many records were there in this transaction records. So, just we are having some 90,000 change records, friends, if I remember correctly. But in the simple, in a single liner, so just within 1.146 seconds, hardly 1.2 seconds, we have taken so as to run the query. Okay, so this is also taking the MapReduce orientation because remember, friends, any 95,904 records per day. Okay, uh, this particular thing is though it is looks like a simple query. In our perspective, it is writing the query is simple, but the count star is again fetching the predefined function, and it is going to apply some kind of aggregation, and it is listing out all the number of records available. So not only this one, friends, more than these records also with Hive we can load with less amount of the time. Okay, so that is the advantage. So it is simple and as well as fast. Okay, simple and as well as the fast. That is why rather than the MapReduce, and if you want to implement the same kind of the count star in MapReduce, there is a lot of process. Like first you need to load the data and thereafter perform some kind of counting of all the things with the mapper and as well as reducer. Again, if you are performing Java, then you have to export the jar file. Many things were there. Okay, but with the simple predefined functionalities of Hive, you can able to perform the activity. Now, let me show you some more analogy. So, like I want to find out the distinct category because in this transaction record, I'm having the category of the products information. And what I want to do is I want to fetch the individual categories. Maybe 95,000 change records I'm having, but within that unique or non-repeated kind of things I want to get. So for that particular case, just I'm counting and distinct category. So related to category, how many of such kind of the counts are there? So here, just you can see In the earlier convention also, MapReduce has established. Let us see how this GUI is performing the activity. So just it is collecting all the information and while running this particular thing, definitely all the things are common things, ARM support and internally the resource manager, and it is going to inspect the node manager. And again, that node manager is having some sort of containers. If you just remember those kind of the terminologies, and the container, however, guys, just you are making use of the containers in terms of map task, reduce task, and as well as the application master. So that application master is something which is getting the status information from various tasks, map and reduce, because the combination of the map and reduce gives the final task. Okay. So likewise, many internal aspects were there. No matter whether directly we are using the map reduce or we are using the hive or scoop or whichever the things. Now, here, just you can make use of the convention. So these many details were there. And here, as mentioned, I can see the way how we are making use of the conventions. Here, there is no such kind of aspects. Okay, though I am selecting these things, but it is not providing us any valuable information. But now, what I am doing here is just I'm having a requirement. How much amount of the budget allocated to each category. Okay, so here only we got the category information, and this is the outcome also saying that 15 such categories are there. Now, what we are doing here is just I am making use of some analogy. I am categorizing the data. Just now we have seen those many categories are there. And for each category, how much budget was allocated. It is something like this. I can simulate this aspect with respect to maybe every year government is allocating some budget, okay, for state and as well as all the educational institutions or medical requirements of the people for all those kind of things. So similarly here also we are having some categories and how much, what is the summation of those category informations from our transaction data. So just if you run through, okay, just it is establishing a kind of map reduce definitely because it is involving group by option and it is having some aggregation. For the individual aggregation, only it has used the map reduce aspect. And on top of that, if I am applying the group by, definitely it is a little complex. Okay, so generally, if you are loading the data and selecting the data from the table, it is not requiring any MapReduce aspect. Whereas if you are establishing a kind of interaction between multiple tables, definitely it is going to establish a MapReduce kind of the aspect. Now, as a part of the query, we have got some outcome. Okay, it has given. Now you will see here, guys. Just it is providing the dancing, combat, sports, all these kind of the budgeting, and I can select this line chart. Line not available, not is not providing us. It's not giving any meaningful data. So rather, I can select the bar chart, of course, category data. Okay, and here the group. I can group the category. Okay, maybe I can limit 100 and all. And if I want to arrange the data uh, accordingly, sorted order and all, I can do that. And moreover, such kind of graphs we're having many. Okay, here it is giving certain analogy. So like here outdoor recreation, how much amount allocated, exercise and fitness, team sports, water sports, other games, gymnastics. So such kind of aspects. Okay, here without any visualization tools, just with the help of this GUI kind of the query processing of the Hive, uh, you can get the information. Okay, so these things are pretty helpful to us in the analysis part. Similarly, scatter plot, and that means friends, all the requirements may not be satisfied. Okay, because depending on the data, we are going to get the appropriate information. Okay, so some of the graphs may be meaningful, some may not be. But basically, this bar chart and pie chart are definitely giving the valuable information, friends. Okay, so here I can select the category and y-axis wise C1, however we have selected. Like that, okay, in what way you want to design the data, in that way you can perform the activity. And query history, so just whatever the execution you have taken, all these kind of the conventions you can observe, and in a way you can rerun the same. Yeah. Whereas in case of the command line interface kind of thing, there is no such a possibility. So here in GUI kind of the Hive interaction, just we are having that convention. Moreover, if you click on this, just will be moved to the appropriate job executed thing, and you can easily observe. But rather, my suggestion would be here you may not get the complete narration of the job. Okay, but our best possibility is, as I said earlier, no? So go to the Cloudera Manager portal. Okay, and then already opened. So just if you are referencing this thing and go back to the tab, and that is the best option, friends. Because no matter whatever the MapReduce job we executed, all those kind of the things are available here. Okay, so add and history server, because currently I'm not running anything. Only the option is just we have to give this login server information, and just you can make use of this login server, and just establishing a connection to that server. Okay, which is giving all the completed jobs. Let me pick what is the job ID here, 11736. Just now we have run with data mine one, and some other members also. Some other members, some from somewhere. Okay, they are also running the appropriate cluster. Okay, so just to click on this, this thing, this is not new for us. Maybe while executing Java and Python-based kind of the MapReduce also, we came here and we observed which are all the tasks done. Okay, in case of the map tasks, how many map tasks can reduce? Only one map task. Okay, such a simple query. Just you can see the information. Similarly, uh, the task orientation. So I can see the reduce task. The reduce task also provides the log information. If you click on this reduce, just I'll be leading to some more page, some other page, and I can get all the information. It is typical map reduce proceeding, and directly you can access the information. Okay, so these things must be pretty clear for you guys. Because establishing the query and submission of the query is okay, but and while estimating the query information, just you need to get all these kind of the conventions. Maybe sometimes they ask us um, how much amount of the data is consumed. So in that case, you can fetch the information from this file system counters. Okay, so the number of bytes utilized as physical memory usage. Okay, there may be some kind of the restrictions in our AWS or Azure kind of the cluster. So always we strive for the optimization. The difficult part is not writing the queries and not submitting the queries, but to optimize those queries. So for that particular purpose, just we are moving ahead to the bucketing and as well as the partitioning aspects. And sometimes, if you want to reduce the time spent, because here it is giving the how much amount of the time spent by your job so as to complete. So that kind of those are all aspects which are very easy to get from our ARM kind of the cluster. So here the understanding is uh, it is pretty clear until we are discussing about the Hadoop ecosystem, starting from the MapReduce to all the MapReduce to Hive, Scoop, all these kind of the uh, job submissions are taken care by the ad. But what we need to observe is, as on top of this ad, we are having the Spark configuration also. Generally, Spark is a different environment apart from the Hadoop. Okay, though that is belonging to the big data tool set, it is something different compared with the Hadoop distributed file system, MapReduce and all. So for this Spark also, okay, just I'm having the support of the app. If you see, it is providing the history server web user interface. Let me show you the same way because SSH login server is same for both the things. Okay, so just you can make use of the convention. Maybe the port address is different for yarn history server and yarn resource manager, and as well as for this part. And clearly, your admin should give the clearly your admin should give the access provision of this thing. Okay, so the PySpark wise, there are two options. One is I can submit through the command prompt. Okay, I'll show you that. However, in the coverage, and another thing is just I'm having this motion Jupyter Hub. Just by establishing a job in the PySpark, then I can simply run the code. This is another convention. So your history server, okay, in terms of Spark and all, is a little different. Just it is providing the application information. If you click on that, it is giving a narration of event timeline and all the completed job information. Okay, if you click on this, again, it is providing some stages, all these things. DAZ visualization, which is very, very important to understand while making use of this Spark orientation. So the why I am referring this point is because this cluster is not only handling your MapReduce or Hadoop kind of aspect, but it also covers the Spark orientation. So obviously, the common and kind of the cluster management tool is supporting us in both MapReduce aspects and as well as the Spark orientation. But the same may not be true for all the clusters. Some people may be happy with Mesos, or some may be choosing some other. But nowadays, friends, 90 percentage of this Spark running on top of the ARN cluster. Okay. So in a way, just we are habituated to use or submit or understand the job submissions and as well as the estimation of the status information with the help of the ARM cluster. In the same way, okay, so just you can feel the specification of this Spark web interface also. Okay, so if you click on this Spark, the same without any distinction, the same kind of interface. That is the advantage. Okay, so though the technique, though the programming constructs are different from MapReduce to Spark, but in the same environment, if I'm running all these things, then you may not feel that much differentiation or a sudden change kind of thing. Okay, that is the cluster and AWS kind of thing, Azure. So they are giving us a commonality, a common interface and a common access mechanism, common submission. So you feel that whether I'm using MapReduce or Hive or Scoop or Spark, as you are submitting from the same interface, only the tool set is different. Other configurations and login details and fetching the data from local or HDFS or going and verifying the job status, these remain same. Okay, so that is the important aspect you can observe. Now, just if you are referencing this understanding, just now we have executed this code, transaction record. Let me run once again. So here my aim is categorical link. So how much amount of the money we have spent on each category. So just accordingly, I want to pick up the specifications or data items. So just I'm writing a small query, and you would have observed, guys, more or less, this is very similar to our SQL kind of the construction. Okay, how in SQL I am making use of my group by and as well as some aggregate kind of the functions. That is what the reason still the data warehousing developers and as well as Spark projects having the demand of these developers, SQL and Python developers. Okay? In either case, so just accordingly, you can mention. I can change the access mechanisms. So likewise, you can make use of this convention. Okay, so this is how you prefer the usage of the charts. And I don't think Oscar man, no, these things won't help us because they're all helpful only whenever I'm having such kind of the distribution. Okay. So with this, just we can start with some other dimension. As I said, how I need to insert one table data into the another table. Just now we have seen the transaction information, friends, and I can feel this transaction source data, and I don't want to give this particular data to the users. So in that particular case, what I can do is just I can make use of. Okay, I can make use of another table. Okay, so and whenever there is a requirement from the transaction records, I want to place the data. So for that particular purpose, as there is no path-oriented commands are there, just only I want to create a result table. The same thing, friends. If you see the transaction number, transaction date, customer number, amount, category, product, city, state, and spend by. All these things I'm maintaining in the result table also. Okay, just to run this, just now I'm going to get one more table in the interface. So just you can automatically refresh and we are getting the results information. Now my aim is within that result table, I want to insert some kind of the data from the transaction records. If you remember, friends, in the page view external, we have inserted some kind of the data. Okay, in the query history, you can see uh, where insert overwrite table, page view external partition. So if it is having the partition, then this is the way how we are doing. But whereas in our current example, we don't have any partition. So in that particular case, just a small query is enough. Insert override table results, select star from transaction records. This is also a typical SQL statement. What I'm doing here is I'm instructing Hive just to select all the records from the transaction as a source table. And from that, just you insert the data into your results table. Now, just if you are referencing this convention, and now estimate that way. Just we are establishing a kind of the interface from transaction record to the results record. Definitely, we need MapReduce support. That is what. So maybe directly if we are inserting or loading or dumping some data in from the local file system or from the Hadoop distributed file system, it is not requiring the map reduce. Whereas if there is a possibility of fetching the data from another table, and I want to make use of that particular table data into the new one. Okay, so then definitely I should go with this thing. What I can do, just you can make use of select star from. Uh, it is always better to specify the database name. Along with it is also providing the intelligence. So just you can run this. I want to verify whether it got inserted or not. Now it is not establishing any map reduce friends. If you see, though I am using select star, still it is not performing any map reduce. But if you are using the aggregate function or if you are performing some kind of the group by, then obviously, okay, because that is the other, it is dependent on some other predefined aspects. So basically, it is not having the data instantly. So for that kind of the purpose, it is dependent on the um, MapReduce work aspects. Okay, now maybe sometimes okay, I'm having some page view data with me, and I want to I want to store the data into a local file. Okay, as I mentioned, I cannot run this particular query here, guys. Okay, if you are giving a try also, already page view I'm having. What I'm doing, I'm getting this page view, and I want to create a local directory in the name of LFS file one, so as to dump this data into the local directory. So even if I am trying, so just as a restricted point of this security or protection kind of thing, oh, it is taking. But let me wait. Okay, it is launching, however, because it is knowing about select star from page view. Okay, so maybe sometimes guys, but general consideration is that we may not have the entire aspects or access mechanism, but now it is a luck for us. Okay, just it has taken that command and it is saying that successful completion. How do I verify this? Because it is a local directory. It is a local directory. Definitely, it should be there in the local file system. Okay, so now let us go to this local file system. Now, if I'm giving ls, where is my file friends? LFS. Okay, so cat LFS. What is the name of that one? Underscore file one. LFS underscore file one. What it is saying is, okay, though it is confirmed. Okay, but one thing here, it is not a file, no? It is a directory. So I should give this way. Still, it is not showing. That means it is not allowing us to create the data, though the appropriate map reduce. There are all some pitfalls, guys. Okay, whereas if you go back and now you run this, now you run this. Okay, let us see. Insert overwrite local directory LFS underscore file one. Now definitely it is going to reflect in the local file system. So the point here is if any work is there related to your path-based kind of thing, no matter whether HDFS or LFS kind of thing, better don't use the queue login. Okay, it is always preferable to make use of the convention with the um, uh, command line interface. Okay, just now you list the directories ls. Earlier cluster is not like this, friends. Now immediately it is disconnecting. Yes, there is our LFS kind of thing. Yes. Now you see, guys, it has been created. Earlier it was not there. Clearly, earlier it was not there. Now you see. What I am doing here is, let me clear ls file one. Yes. Okay. Now cat lfs file one slash 36 na 6 underscore 0 page view data. Okay, whatever the page view data I'm having. So, though this particular GUI kind of thing is not giving any error, okay, and have a look on this, it has taken 22.386. It took more time, 24.479, but that's okay. But only the thing is, though it attempted to run the query, but we cannot see any file system here. Now, out of doubt, just let me go back to this. Uh, Let me clear that. Okay. If Hadoop FS is having that thing, because maybe my GUI, yes, friends, that is the point. Okay. So if it is giving success means somewhere it stored the data. And but clearly, if I am inspecting also, it has not taken, it is not considered that local directory. Okay, insert overwrite. This thing is not considered as a local directory because it has taken its own dimension, and then it launched it created the directory. So in that case, in view login only, I can see the HDFS. Let us refresh this. Now I'm having this LFS file one. See, Hive staging empty directory. Though it has attempted, that's what I'm saying. So many things we have to cross. So many complexities we have to cross. Though the job is successful in case of the GUI kind of thing, but it is not a fruitful result, friends. It is not a fruitful result. Clearly, it is trying to maintain high staging data and all these things. Perfectly all right. But it could not fetch the data and place into that folder actually. Okay. So here, if you see also, if I'm trying to list out whatever the content I'm having, there only we have seen LFS file. It is having some Hive and all. It's a temporary file. That too, it is not having any content with it. Okay. So be cautious, guys. Though we are allowed to perform some kind of the activities on the view login portal, but there are certain restrictions. Okay. So all those things you can avoid. One simple point is that while submitting, okay, while performing any kind of the job, which is involving the path-based kind of the commands, try to avoid the path-based usage in the view login portal. So otherwise, sometimes here we are not having provided with complete path-based details. Uh, Sometimes if Hadoop admin, based on the client specifications if you give, then you can make use of for local. Let me give a try. I can do this slash home slash big data tab one. Generally, the orientation is like this kind. All your LFS start from home and your username and the corresponding directory. Okay, so now LFS one is there. Let me give two. I don't think it is going to run. Let me give a try. So I have to clarify the approach. See, it has failed. Okay, so you don't have write access. Okay, something it is showing guys because and by default it is pointing to HDFS only. In that case, what I can do, just I can change this to user. Let me give a try out that also. I can give this thing and let me. It is objecting, no, writing and all. Yeah, it seems it is going through. No, still we are having. Okay. So these kind of conventions are not possible. And if I'm leading this and I'm giving only the empty file, it is able to execute, but no resultant we have observed in the earlier, we are having earlier experience actually. There is no such kind of the fruitful results we got. Okay, so these are all things as a Hadoop developer and Hive practitioner we should have in the mind. Okay, so this is one kind of the convention where you can perform some kind of the activities related to the usage of functionalities and all. So let us run into a different zone of friends. Up to now, we have understood the basics of the table creations, the dumping of the data, using one table into another table insertion, and as well as storing the data into Hadoop distributed file system. Or sometimes I want to store my data into local file system, and we have applied some little statistical functions like count, aggregate functions, group by, and all. So, if I'm having multiple tables, common practice is join performance. Though Hive, guys, maybe if you are running some projects and working with Hive, generally Hive is best suited for up to now whatever the things we have done. Apart from that, partitions, bucketing, and as well as the indexing. However, we are going to see those kind of the conventions. Apart from that, there are certain other considerations are also there where you can perform the activities. Now, what I'm doing here is assume a scenario like I'm having the user data and as well as the transaction data. Now I want to join these two kind of the tables. Okay, joins are not definitely not new for us, but how we are going to achieve this particular join operation in case of the Hive. So for that purpose, just first we need to have two tables. One is the user data and another is the transaction data. So let me uh, connect with my database. Just we are making use of the user data. Okay, so I'm creating user information with ID, email, language, location, all these things. Maybe this data we are using for the sake of telemarketing, or else to contact for the subsidies or some kind of the maybe the customer who have inquired about some kind of the products, and even in e-commerce websites also notify me when the product is available. And if that is the case, definitely the store should know a little information about the customer, maybe whether he is a Bangalore based or Chennai based or Pune based, like that. And language preference also, because some of the customers prefer their local language. Okay, so in that case, definitely language is also one of the important thing to convey the information. So just we are creating this table user one data. This user one data is we picked up the ID of the user. That ID is nothing but for our reference. Maybe how many invoices are generated related to that user. Some cars would be there, friends. Maybe Reliance and more market if we are going, even Heritage also, they give us some kind of the cards. And just after entering that particular card number while paying, and we may be getting some subsidies also. Okay, some what they want to do is they want to integrate all your purchases through a unique identification. That is the understanding. And email, language, and location, all these things. Now this user has been created with the said items, okay, with the said attributes. Now our interest is because definitely we are working on the kind of the transactions. So just let us create the transaction data. Okay, so I'm having some transaction information with me, and I am making use of that transaction data so as to run the query. Now this transaction containing transaction ID uh, and product ID. Definitely, friends, one basic requirement so as to establish a kind of the join between two tables is a common attribute. So that common attribute is the user ID. If you refer, in the users we are having the ID, and in the transactions also we are having the ID. Of course, transaction ID is different. For the sake of user representation, I am using the user ID. Okay, so and purchase amount, how much amount of the because this thing guys, and it is pretty common. Even while ordering in Zomato or Swiggy, what they give us is if you order more than 150 rupees, there are certain what to say that coupons will be there. Okay, just to click on that apply coupon, so you will be getting some reduction in the appropriate final price. So similarly here also the more general practice is based on the amount purchased. Okay, based on the amount incurred by the customer, what we are doing is if we cross some 4,000 or 5,000 per month, just we are giving some gift to hamper or something like that. Okay, that is the scenario. Just this time, this transaction table is having the ID, product ID, user ID, purchase amount, item description, like that. Just we want to create these two tables so as to establish um, a kind of join operation. So this is pretty simple. Running of these two table creations, it is quite common for us to create the tables for the sake of the implementations. Okay, now this one transaction. So transaction ID, product ID, user ID, purchase amount, and item description. Okay, perfect. Now the point is just we have created the tables. We have not inserted any data into this particular table. As I said earlier, now what I am doing here is I want to pick up the information from my local file system. If you observe the local file system, ls, ls input Hive, I'm having the user data and transaction data. User.txt, transaction.txt. Now I want to load this data into my uh, table, user table, and as well as the transaction table. With the Hive portal, if I am attempting also, I don't want to attempt actually because it is involving certain considerations of the path and all. So I'm moving to my Hive CLI. Okay, with this only, I want to insert the data. Okay, so let me clear the screen. Yes. Okay, and let me run the query. Okay, load data, local in path. Just now we have verified input Hive user.txt. Overwrite into the table user one. Just we have created the user one data. Now just to enter, obviously it is and it has not taken much time, friends. Similarly, what I want to do is I want to insert my data from the transaction.txt, which is available in the local file system. Okay, so the same command, the util change, change in the input data and as well as the table name. So which one I have given transaction, right? Okay, so just enter, immediately inserted. Okay, now you can verify the data. Now you can verify here only. So select star from uh, our database and users info. Just I am running this. Okay. Just as a kind of verification, we are going to see user data. It is having some kind of the content, user language and all the things. And similarly, I have done some kind of the transactions. Uh, just I'm having the transaction data. Just to click on this, just I'm having certain records. Okay, maybe a book purchase or product purchase or something like that. Okay, so we are ready with the data. Now our interest is based on the commonality of the data. I want to fetch the information. Okay, whatever the commonalities of the data. So for that particular purpose, just I can make use of this join operation. Have a look on this. How I am performing is this T1 and T2 are the alias names. This T1 and T2 are the alias names. What I'm trying to do here is this time selecting the T2 dot product ID, where T2 is the reference of the transaction. In the transaction, I'm having the product ID along with the count of distinct locations. Here, what we are trying is guys, maybe customers are located in multiple locations, multiple things. Uh, Based on the location, I want to identify the customer. It means that suppose I have purchased something on Hyderabad and I have gone to Chennai for my business trip and I purchased it there also. And later for the conference, I went to Bangalore and thereafter to meet some professor, I went to Indore, assume that for university professor, something like that. So only these many locations, though we traversed, but only the location must be distinct related to that particular product purchase. So, and we are picking that user information. Okay, so user ID and all, and thereafter we are joining the user and transaction. And definitely, this is understood. T1 dot ID equal to T2 dot user ID. T1 referenced by user, T2 referenced by transaction. Group by product ID. So maybe we have launched some new textbook on Spark, and we want to see what is the response or how many members were purchased. All these kind of the conventions. So we are grouping on product ID actually. So related to that particular convention, I want to establish uh, a kind of query. Okay, so ultimately this query fetches the information from both the tables, user and transaction, provided in the transaction and in the user table where there is a equality. So equijoin kind of thing you can see. Similar to this, we're having many things, friends. Left outer, right outer, all full outer join. Just I'll be giving you that as a case study. You can practice. Okay, all those join kind of the conditions. But just I'm giving the essence of the join option. Okay, similarly, maybe if I want to pick up all the user information apart from the transaction data, left outer join is the best option. Whereas if I want to get all the product information apart from the users, I can make use of the right outer join. Sometimes, okay, no matter, along with the equal record, I want to get everything from user ID, user data, and as well as the transaction data. Then you can go ahead with the full outer join. Okay, so the basic aspect remains same, guys. So that's what I'm saying. If you want to learn Spark or Hive, you should be again should come back and see your SQL skills. Okay, because SQL usage is unavoidable in all these Hive, Scoop, and even Spark also. We are going to talk. Okay, probably the next week because today I'll try to complete Hive. Some of the topics, partitions, and as well as the bucketing. And I'll try to introduce the Spark scoop orientation. Tomorrow we'll see the scoop running of the jobs and all. And I'll introduce the Spark aspects. And next week onwards, because Friday we are having that review and refactor. So just to have a look on that. Tomorrow, however, scoop I'll try to complete. Uh, and Monday onwards, just we'll be discussing about Spark orientation, Spark job submission on the web shell, and how we are going to establish the usage of the Jupyter Hub and integration of the Python and Spark, and how we are fetching the data from HDFS, and how job is submitted to your ARM cluster. Apart from that, most important things are RDD and data frames. Okay, some sort of Spark. SQL, all these things will be talking. Okay, maybe two or three sessions are required from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay, and let me see how I can cover the other aspects apart from these things. Okay, so with that Scala also, I want to give you a sense, maybe one session, if possible, I'll conduct so that we can have a look on how really Scala is helping us in terms of functional programming and as well as object-oriented programming. Because Scala is a perfect functional and object-oriented programming friends. Okay, so just these are all some of the things where you can understand related to the join operations. And most importantly, um, let me talk about the concept of the partition. Um, the partitions are one of the most common uh, entries. Okay, so in the usage of um, table data. Okay, so now let me put this particular things. Okay, long back we have seen our OneNote. Let me fetch some data for you. So this particular data gives us how we are performing the partition kind of the aspects. Let me share the screen, friends. Yes. Okay. So the most important and useful aspect is Hive partitions. What exactly a partition refers? How one can make use of the uh, partition in the development environment. So partitioning is the optimization technique in Hive which improves the performance significantly. See, friends, while using the joins, while using some other technique, there are certain other parameters to optimize the query. Okay, to optimize the query. But if you observe, partition itself is the optimization technique, friends. So someone asks you, what is the best optimization technique or what is the optimization technique by default in Hive, then you can give the answer like partitioning. So partitioning is the optimization technique in Hive, which improves the performance significantly. Okay, this is a direct point. And now one more thing, guys. Here, partitioning is a way of dividing a table into the relational into a related parts based on the values of particular column, like date, city, and department, etc. Suppose I'm having the skill set both DE and as well as the data science, data engineering and data science. Now across the uh, DUs, I want to pick up how many Ds are there, no matter whether that is the Uber or whether that is Indian Databricks or might be for some other clients. So across these things, I want to filter, I want to partition, okay, the DE guys, along with the machine learning guys, who are all familiar with ML library or machine learning kind of thing, all these things. So partition is a way of dividing a table into the related parts based on the values of, okay, based on the skill set. Here examples, values of particular columns like date, city, and as well as the department details. Okay, and further, we are seeing in partitioning method, all the table data is divided into multiple partitions. Now you see here. So if you remember, friends, at the time of inserting the data, okay, assume that we are having US data and India data. Okay, in the partition itself, just we are mentioning the appropriate thing. In the table, okay, so there is one partition for US. All the US records will be available here, and all the India basic records. Okay. So in partition method, all the table data is divided into multiple partitions. This is partition one and then partition two. Each partition corresponding to a specific value of partition column. Because I need to mention, as I said, whether the date or some kind of the city or else some country or else some skill set. Okay, based on certain column information, just we are going to map the appropriate data into the corresponding partition. So the partitioning method provides a logical storage for each and every partition. Like that, you can understand, guys. And therefore, on querying a particular table, appropriate partition of the table is queried, which contains the query value. Thus, it decreases the I/O time required by the query. This is pretty straightforward, guys, because uh, as I'm not definitely searching all the 1 lakh records, maybe I'm having 10,000 records for US data, 25,000 records for India data, 15,000 records for UK data. Like that, I'm having the data. So suppose if I'm normally surfing, here 40, 50K I need to surf. Whereas if I am applying the partition, only that particular portion of the data I can verify. So in a way, there is no definitely when compared with non-partitioned kind of the table, partition table greatly reduces the I/O time. Okay, input and output time, because I have to launch a query and then it has to verify all the records and it has to fetch the required records and it is going to give that. Maybe it is taking some 1.5 seconds, but definitely with the help of the partition, I may reduce to some 1.1 seconds, something like that, even less than that. So automatically, if your searching information or processing data is reduced, obviously you will be getting the benefits. That is what performance improvement, and hence increases the speed of the performance. So based on this particular convention, one can easily observe how we are going to run this. But here the story not ends, guys. Okay, always one simple aspect is embedded with some other extension. That is where we are having two kinds of the partitions. One is your static partition. Okay, let me show you that what exactly this partition does. So the static partition, okay, so which is having certain kind of the properties. Have a look on this guide because after this explanation, I'll be giving some case study. So as it is the just we are following the case study. Just we try to implement the static and as well as the dynamic partition. So just to have a look on these, I would say these are all the steps to establish some kind of the partitioning. So we are having two partitions actually. One is the dynamic and second is first is the static. Let us focus on the static partition. Insert input data files individually into a partition table is static partition. Individually, how we have done in case of page view, US and India. So we pretty know that, and we intentionally inserting that particular data. Then that kind of the partition is known as the static partition. Okay. Usually, when can I use the static partition is while loading the big files. Okay, huge amount of the data or bigger files into your Hive tables, static partitions are preferred. It is you to decide as a developer. Suppose I'm having 1 TB of the data, then I want to store this data into my Hive table. So then, okay, it's a quite big file. So let me go with a static partition. So there, you can mention your skill set DE, DS, or PySpark, something like that. So obviously, based on these kind of the conventions, one can load that data into the Hive table. Now you strictly add a partition in the table and move the file into the partition of the table. If you remember, friends, in the table creation itself, create table, page view. Okay, after mentioning the attribute information, we did mention partition by date and country. Like that we have mentioned. So in the table creation itself, we clearly mention in that just I am using the these kind of the two partitions. One is date and another is the country partition. And we can alter the partition in the static. Altering in the sense just you can alter the partition. Just if I want to remove the date or if I want to add one more thing, date, country, and as well as the skill set also, or date, country, and as well as some kind of city information also. So like that, you can perform the activation and the you can perform static partition on Hive managed table or external table. Okay, so here the managed table we clearly see in print. Managed table is something like where I can store my data and even after dropping my external table, but still if I want to preserve my data, so with the help of this external table concept, I can do that. So the static partition can be implemented on the external tables also. That is the understanding. Okay. And if you want to use the static partition, and there is certain properties we have to set. That is what set hive.mapred.mode equal to strict. And if Hive is seeing this kind of the thing, then I can say that is a static partition. Static partition. And you may ask one question, but while establishing page view partition, we did not mention that. By default, okay, if I am explicitly mentioning that is okay. Otherwise, it is a static partition only, friends. Okay, so because already, though again we are studying this partition technique in Hive, but we are having quite knowledge on that particular static partition. The reason is from the earlier examples. Okay, we are making use of that static usage, and we have created some sort of partitions, date and as well as the country information. Okay, so this is a quite revisiting of the partition of the existing, but now the point is we are moving to the dynamic partition phase actually. Okay, so let me introduce what exactly that dynamic partition. Once this is over, then we can implement that particular case study. So this dynamic partition. Okay, so be with me, guys. The dynamic partition is a second uh, partition type in Hive. So single insert to partition table is known as a dynamic partition. Let me project this way, guys. Okay, just at Indium, we are running various recruitment drives, recruitment drive 1, drive 2, drive 3. And this recruitment drive 1 only recruiting software engineers, drive 2 recruiting senior software engineers, drive 3 recruiting leads, all the leads and all. Now, I don't know which drive confirms the selection. I cannot say this drive one is giving 10 software engineers and 5 senior software engineers and 2 leads. There is no such kind of restriction. And whenever there is a recruitment successfully completed, this data is going to insert into our portal. And similarly, in the senior software engineers also, according to, because this is a continuous process, no? So it's a dynamically according to the recruitment, according to the finalization of the candidate, from the source data, after confirming all the 3 or 4 rounds of the interview, just will be pushed that guy into our system. So we don't know when we are going to get that right resource. Exactly the suitable scenario of talking about this dynamic partitioning is this example, friends. Okay, so we are having various drives, and based on the performance of the candidate, the appropriate drive give the appropriate team give the result of the candidates, and in a way we are contacting them. That's the process actually. So if you want to partition a number of columns, but you don't know how many columns, then dynamic partition is suitable. So here designation is there, and sometimes I may see the location, and suppose leads are there, and leads they asked us from work from home. Okay, and maybe senior software engineer they may ask us hybrid. Okay, both work from home and as well as the office coming based on the requirement. And for the software engineers, for the junior guys, just we are putting that at least 2 days we have to report to the office. Maybe such kind of the things based on our projects and all. So in this case, the designation and location also playing a vital role. Okay, so when you have a large data stored in a table, then the dynamic partition is suitable. And of course, guys, both in static and as well as the dynamic. However, our Hadoop ecosystem itself is holding the huge amount of the data that is understood, and we cannot alter on the dynamic partition. Dynamic itself, uh, at runtime, just we are going to populate and get the data, and altering the appropriate partition logic is not possible in case of the dynamic partition. If you want to use the dynamic partition Hive, then the mode should be in the non-restrict mode or non-strict mode. Suppose if I am working with the static partition, mode of the operation is strict. Whereas if I want to perform if I want to work with the dynamic partition, then my mode of operation is non-strict, strict and as well as the non-strict. Okay. So with this, just we equipped with all the required conceptual understanding of the data. Um, Now what I'm doing here is, guys, just let me introduce you how we are performing the activity of the partition. Okay, once this discussion is over, just we'll have a break. Okay, so because I don't want to miss out the momentum of this discussion. Now we are having the static and the dynamic partition in our mind, and in a way we can finish out and then we'll have a break. Okay. So I understand. Yeah, of course, the topics are little. I'm teaching everything. Okay. So, but still, uh, we have to be very attentive and as well as logical. It's logical. Okay. So, thanks for that. And moreover, the partitions kind of thing. What we are doing is Two things where I have mentioned. One is the static partition. Let me create one more table. Though I can give you that okay, page is the static, but clearly I want to distinguish between static and dynamic, so that I am coming up with one more case study. This time, guys, what I'm doing here is create table STP, static partition, employee static partition. This employee table, of course, name I am giving as STP, but still it is a table only. Name of the employee, location, extension. Okay, so this thing and how to contact this employee and all. Designation. As I said, software engineer, senior software engineer, and lead kind of thing. And row format delimited, fields terminated by comma, stored as a text file. This is typical table creation process. Okay. So initially we are creating the employee table in the name of static partition. So just here the partition information is the designation. Now what I am doing here is just I want to load the data um, from the employee table into the employee table. For that, let me show you where this particular data resides actually. So load data, local input. I don't know whether this GUI allows us or not, but let me give it a try. Load data, local input, employee software engineer.txt into the table, partition, designation equal to SE. So here just we'll go to this prompt. If I'm giving ls, what I have mentioned, friends, employee SE directly. Let me clear uh, employee sc.txt. So just we are having some names. So software engineers recruited by the corresponding team or these members. Okay, there are certain points here. Okay, so directly I can dump this particular data into my table. Okay, so load data local in path. Yeah, it is not allowing. So definitely we have to go and venture this thing with right. So just a minute, friends, because we have not touched this thing. No? So yeah, loading the data. Mm. Clear. Multiple times it has taken. No? So just let me update. So Hive, just I am contacting again, and I have to use this Indian one as a table. Let me confirm how many tables were there. So employee STP, just we have created. No clear is there. Control L here. Describe employee static partition. I'm having the location, extension, and designation. So now what I want to do, I want to get into this thing. Let me check whether I have copied properly. Load data, local in path, employee se.txt into table, partition by designation. Okay, yes, it has loaded. Okay. Similarly, what I want to do is such kind of the loadings I want to perform from the senior software engineer. Okay, SSC kind of thing. Uh, just you can make use of this thing. Yes. So the problem with CLI is, guys, so just it is, yeah. But overall, the cluster itself is little late. Just to run through. Yes. And thereafter, we are having the third option, lead, as I said. So now what we are doing manually, so there is a designation process. And related to that particular designation, we want to uh, insert the data. Okay, so far we have inserted SE, SSE, and lead. Now let me move back to this thing, and I want to select star from Indium one. Okay, dot our employee STP. Okay, just you can run through all the details. A little high time it has taken because partition wise, because in a normal table, friends, it may not require that much data. So all members, okay, so all the members are there who we are recruited so far, maybe software engineers, senior software engineers, or leads, etc. Okay, so just with this, just you can query the data. Like your querying is this way, friends. Maybe I can give you this case study to without partition, how much amount of the time it has taken, or with partition. Because now what I'm doing here is I want to pick the data under the designation software engineer and who is having the name of Uma. Okay, so just you can see here. However, our Hive is giving the time estimation also. Definitely, if you are without partition, if you create the table and dump the data from various locations, and you can pick up the data. And you can observe the time and as well as other resources required. Whereas if you refer the partition kind of thing, the static orientation, where I'm getting the data from multiple sources, and I want to dump the data into the corresponding partition. And moreover, as we are having the different partitions, let me go to the one note. So, because if you are talking about the partition kind of orientations, by default, because the partition itself is the optimization technique. First point we have seen, partitioning is the optimization technique. So, in our example, if I'm while creating the employee static partition, I did mention the designation as the partition column. Now what we are doing here is my partition is like this. It is going to store the data. But all the software engineers data is available as partition one. All your senior software engineers kind of thing, but statically. Okay, not dynamically, statically. Just it is going to perform. Now, just I have given the query like this: select star from uh, our employee STP, where my designation is software engineer, and maybe that manager want to ask whether this guy we have given SE or senior software engineer like that. Maybe they would have seen some qualification or experience criteria. They thought of moving this particular candidate to some other. It happens, you know. Sometimes it may happens. We may not get enough leads. Then senior software engineers maybe offer this lead position with the discretion, right? And name equal to something like that. Okay. Just with this, it is basically designation only. I am verifying. I'm not touching P2 and P3. Just searching process will be P1, and within that P1, I'm having assumed that some 10 records. And if any of the name is mapped with the UMA, then only that name will be displayed. Okay, querying and all same friends. There is no differentiation. Only the thing is, just it is not searching the entire process, entire partitions. Just it is pointing to the corresponding partition. Accordingly, it is going to filter the data. Okay, so likewise, you can observe the process of partitioning. Now, let me see if any other points we can do as a part of this verification. And we have not observed what is the outcome. That particular outcome, okay, it has given just okay. Exactly, it is not resulting the things because SC and as well as UMA may not maybe capital or small letters or something. But just this is the way how you can specify the uh, implementation of the static partition. This is pretty simple, friends. It's not so excited for us. But dynamic partition, as I said in the conceptual specification, there in the dynamic partition, just I'm having the data and I don't know how many records are going to populate into my table. Then in that case, guys, there are certain steps actually. So the first step, okay, out of the just if you are referencing this first one, let me give you what exactly the first step. Here itself we can talk in the specification itself. So the first step is observe here, guys. Okay, step one, uh, create a internal table. Okay, create an internal table. It can be delta load coming from different servers daily. So as I said, no, so maybe I'm not sure how many recruitments are happened and how I am performing the activity with respect to those recruitments. And after confirmation only, I'll be running through the appropriate process. Okay. Next option is once this thing is over, now step B, if you are saying, okay, so let me, yeah, put data from internal table in step A to step B. Okay, that is a dynamic table. It can be delta load coming from different servers daily. So here the point is, friends, we need to create first table one, and this table one data I'm going to move to the table two. Okay, in terms of if you are making use of this convention, friends, I'm having the internal table and both are internal tables. Of course, you can use the external table also. There is no restriction, but in this scenario, we are using the internal tables. So just after making use of this thing, delta load coming from different servers daily. Now with this, what I'm doing is let me create a new query and implement one by one, friends. Okay. So the first point is just I want to create one employee table where that table is containing the information about the full details of the employee. Okay, employee full details I'm having. Uh, okay, so just if you are observing this one, employee full one, name, string, location, extension, and designation. Row format delimited is a typical table, nothing great in that. Just I am creating a common table information. Now I'm using this particular table so as to uh, make use for the dynamic partition. Okay, because this table may be populated with periodically some kind of the table, and you would have observed this thing, guys. We have not mentioned any partition for this employee full table. Okay, employee full table, whenever it is populated with the new data, correspondingly, I want to trigger the populated data to the new table, dynamic partition. Okay, just now we have created the employee full table. And then what I'm doing as a next step is I should load the data into the employee full table. So for that, I cannot use this thing now. Just let me go back to Hive. Before that, let me show you uh, which are all the details available in the local file system as the employee data. Hang on, friends, 1 minute. Yes. So I want to get employee.txt there now. Yes. Employee.txt data. Some details I'm having. Okay, some employee data I'm having. This data is containing manager, lead, senior software engineer, like that I'm having every data. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to load this particular data. Okay, load data local in path into the employee full one. Just is a typical loading process, nothing more. So let me verify. So select uh, star from Indium one dot employee full one. Just run that. So just no map reduce, nothing required. Direct simply listing out of all the data within the employee full table. That's it. Okay. So these things are there. Hmm? Right. Up to this, we are pretty clear. But now onwards, we are going to venture that dynamic partition. Just the second step is, guys, we have to create one more table. Definitely, I should establish a kind of partition on that. And according to that particular partition, I'm going to perform the activity. For that, let me create a new query, make use of this thing. Have a look on this, guys. So create a table, employee dynamic partition one, name, location, and extension. If you observe the employee full, this employee full is having the name, location, extension, and designation. Is a straight attributes. All are straight attributes. Whereas in case of the dynamic partition table, only name I am taking, location I am taking, extension I am taking, but designation I push it to this partition by. If you see the partition by, just I am making use of the designation. And now also there is no communication between our employee full table and employee dynamic partition table. Just I am creating the employee dynamic partition table, keeping the point in mind that I may use this employee full data further. For that purpose, just I am making use of the name, location, and extension. Later point of time, I may make use of this designation. Okay, this is the dynamic partition actually. Okay, we'll make that at least. Okay, at the time of creation itself, the employee dynamic partition, what I have mentioned, my designation is partitioned. Out of these particular things, designation is the partition column. Yes, you can create this. Okay, so employee dynamic partition table is there, and that particular table is clearly allowing us to enter the name, location, extension along with the partition data designation. So just now we have seen employee dynamic partition. Just now we have created. Let us have a look on the description, name, location, extension, and designation. Now, if you refer, so uh, describe describe the appropriate maybe it may not take completely. I should give. So describe. So friends, one of the important thing is if any error is there in the thing, it won't suggest anything. So hope you are aware of that in Python, Jupyter notebook, and everywhere. Okay, so you can rewrite your query in that case. If any intelligent support editor if you are using, and if that editor is not the editor is dumb sometimes. If that is dumb means we have to be very cautious. It is not identifying anything. It is not helping us in the sense something wrong in our comment. So see here, friend, the description. Rather, if I'm clicking on this, it is not conveying any information apart from the attribute information. But whereas here, name, location, extension, designation. Observe here, friends. Okay, with the description, I'm getting the partition information, column name, data type, and comment. Designation. Okay, actually, this designation is we are using as a partition information. So if at all you want to, because just like that, if you are verifying this table, you may not get which is the partition you are working on. So in that case, just you can make use of the describe command, which is giving you the understanding of whether any partition data is there. So accordingly, you can plan your process. Okay. So up to this, just what we have done, we have created some employee full table without any partition. Just we are inserted software engineer, senior software engineer, and lead data. Now, as a second step, just now we have created employee dynamic partition table, and that particular table actually contains the partition designation. Okay, up to that we have done. Now, if you refer um, some kind of the properties I want to maintain, that particular property is nothing but okay dynamic partition setting. Okay, let me give you this thing. Okay, let me go to this Hive. Okay, so and clear the screen because I want to manually set this particular thing, which may not clearly available in the view login portal. So we are switching in between these two things, friends. What I'm doing here is just this is the statement which is triggering the dynamic partition. See here, insert into table employee dynamic partition one, partition by designation, select name, location, extension, designation from the employee full one. So if I'm trying to attempt this, what it is saying, friends, see, have a look on this. Just a minute, just a minute. If you observe this thing, I'm pasting in the chat, something it is conveying to us. So that thing is, if you refer that, I'm trying to insert data into the employee dynamic partition. Select name, comma, location, extension, designation from employee full one. So I am fetching the data from employee full to the employee dynamic partition. Now what it is saying, there is an exception. Dynamic partition strict mode requires at least one static partition column. To turn this off, set hive.exec.dynamic partition mode equal to non-stick. Okay, this is the instruction. So just like that, I cannot make use of this dynamic partition. So what I'm doing here, guys, for that, okay, yes, I should follow the dynamic partition should be established as true. Okay, and one more property is I should mention, okay, the non-stick mode also. Okay, one is mention of the dynamic partition as true. Another is mention of the partition mode as non-stick. Okay, now I can able to run the above query. Now let me try insert into table employee dynamic partition and just give a try. Difference it is launching the map reduce and it is launching job one out of three like that because three partitions are there. It is segregated as three map tasks, three reduced tasks. Just accordingly, how many designations are there based on those kind of the things it is going to perform the activity. So with this, guys, just to see how fast it is, even in case of normal or static partition or without partition, if you are doing the insertion of the table, earlier we have seen it took some time, but now just it is making use of very less time. Time taken to load the dynamic partition is 0.194 seconds. Time taken for adding to right entity, so as to update that particular thing is 0.01 seconds and cumulative HDFS read and as well as the HDF, the success factor and all. So total map reduced CPU time spent is 1 second 830 milliseconds. Okay. So what exactly this thing is, in case of the dynamic partition, whatever the mode of operation we are making use, all those kind of the conventions can be specified. Okay. So this is how we are fetching the data and performing some kind of the activity related to the dynamic partition. And one more important point, friends, sometimes, while working with this, let me show you that there are certain other parameters also. So we were asked to run the appropriate partition and partition per node equal to 100. That means at least suppose I'm having some 100 node cluster, the number of partitions should reach to each node. So as to empower the parallel processing. So because guys, Hadoop definitely follows the batch processing, distributed and as well as the parallel approach. Distribution in terms of the Hadoop distributed file system. Whereas if I am talking about the MapReduce, it is providing a kind of the parallel approach. Okay, so again, while using the dynamic partition, and if again you want to specify some kind of the environmental kind of thing related to the partitions and how many partitions per node, Okay, for achieving all these kind of the conventions, you can make use of these options, setting up of your number of partitions and setting up of that per node how many partitions I want to run. These kind of the considerations can be observed. Okay, so with this, just you can make use of the partition usage. Uh, and once we are coming from the break, just I will be introducing you the concept of the bucketing. Bucketing also we have seen earlier, but still something we need to discuss about the bucketing, how we have discussed in the partition aspect. And of course, one more topic is the concept of indexing actually. So with these two aspects, okay, just we can understand the capabilities of the Hive. Okay, and within 2 minutes we'll break, friends. And before that, let me give you the key takeaways because this is a refreshment for in that case. So because before taking break, just if I'm giving you the kind of key takeaways, you will be feeling that okay, these things were completed. Okay, so the key takeaways, if I am talking, the very first thing is just we have started with our Hive functions, predefined functions, and some kind of the count, group by, all these things we have seen. Second thing is we have seen load the table data into table data or table data into a local directory. That thing we have seen. The third important thing is load page view data into another table, page view external. This thing we have seen. Next point is mm, we have seen some kind of which are all the things we have done, friends. Let me go back 1 minute. History, yes. This one actually, the we have seen some kind of user data joined with transaction data, and we have applied the kind of the join operations. And then we discussed the static partition, and then we have seen the dynamic partition. Okay. Now after the break, the next topics. So just I will be introducing you the concept of bucketing. It is also known as clustering actually. On similar kind of the items. And one more topic, indexing, which is pretty helpful. Yesterday, I have shared one file in the Teams chat frame that is materialized reviews actually, which are quite interesting. And this as a task of preparation, okay, I'm giving to you. So indexing, however, I will be covering just based on that. We'll see. If I take the material, no problem. I'll do some demonstration. That's not a big thing, right? Okay. So with this, we'll have a break, guys. So of course, definitely more things we have discussed. These are all very helpful to you in the projects while implementing these high kind of the specifications. Let me start with the Google timer and okay, meet you back by after 20 minutes. Thank you.